Hey y'all, I'm Val with Our Forever Farm, and today we're canning soup. You're going to see me at different times during a couple of days doing this. It's a labor of love and I love it. Let's get busy. We're making homemade soup. Now, my tomatoes are not completely coming in. They're starting to, but I had some in the freezer. So I have measured out all my stuff, and I'm going to put in what I have from the freezer, and I'll tell you about it as we go along. But this is an easy way to start cleaning out your freezer, making homemade soup to can. I'm not going to can it till tomorrow, but it will be on this video. So this is a really basic, easy soup. This is tomatoes I thawed out of my freezer, and I measured them out in these quart jars. They weren't canned, they were just frozen. And I'm going to put them in the stock pot. Now, I'm showing you these because where you can see what's going in the stock pot, and then when we get it all together, we'll show you what's in the pot. So this is not a ball recipe, and I always tell y'all to go by the ball canning. If I can get that out. Canning book. But this I've done for years because Sweet Hunter's granny did it, and we just used what we had. So all I'm doing is combining all my stuff in a stock pot. This is, let's see what this is. This is about 2 cups of onions. That was 2 quarts of tomatoes crushed up. So that's onions and tomatoes. This is all the potatoes I have, and I have a grocery delivery coming, so I am getting some more, but I don't need them in the soup, so I went ahead and used these. This is about 2 quarts of potatoes. And I cut them into chunks. My sweet friend Stacy, she bought some green beans. Ours aren't in yet. They're blooming, so they're about there. But she broke these, washed them, got them ready for me. And instead of fixing them for dinner, I thought I'd put them in this soup. I just thought that would be good. And that's about 1 quart of cut green beans, fresh. Now I've got celery. This is just a little bit of leftover celery that I used in a different dish. I normally don't keep celery, stocked in my refrigerator, but I wanted to get this used up. I cleaned out my refrigerator today. So that was probably 1 cup of chopped celery. So I don't grow carrots. I need to try, but I don't. And I just ordered my carrot and then about 1 quart of chopped carrots. I'm using what I have. So this is my friend Kathy, her hot pickled garlic, and I'm about to the end. But I just took some of it and chopped it up, not real fine, but just chopped it up. And I'm gonna add about 6 or 8 cloves in here. She better do some more of this. We need to find out how to do this. Another gift from my friend Stacy, and she's shucked these, washed them, and got them ready for me. I'm gonna cut them off the cob real quick. We're fixing to do a video on creamed corn, and I'll show you how I cut it off the cob there. But in soup, I don't want anything but the kernels. I don't want the cream or the milk that's inside the cob. I'll give the cobs to my chickens, and they'll get to enjoy that. So this is probably this is almost 3 cups of corn off the 5 or 6 ears that she shucked for me. Funny little story. I'll tell you this. I might have told it on here before. When I married Sweet Hunter, I was not a farm girl, and I didn't know anything about a garden, animals, except a dog, and a cat. When we got married, he said, the first thing I'm going to buy you is a goat. And I was like, what? I didn't know this side of him. It was a wonderful thing marrying him because I've learned so much. But anyway, his granny and pawpaw, we lived way out in the country. Our first house was 5 acres. It was so cute. It was country and plain. But looking back at some of my sweetest memories, it's when I had my kids all there. And it was just the sweetest little house. We drive by it quite often. It was a little 2-bedroom house, didn't have heat or air. We had 1 car. But anyway, back to his granny and pawpaw. So he said, we need to shuck some corn. We need to get some corn and shuck it. And there was a farm up the road that had corn that they raised. in fields. I'm talking acres. And I was like, okay. And so he said, I'll get Granny and Papa over here, and they'll, you know, help us and teach you. And I said, okay, no problem. I mean, I probably thought it was going to be 5 or 6 years like this. All of a sudden, he had ordered more than a pickup truckload of corn, fresh, out of the field. His Granny and Papa come. We sat around in chairs. It was just like in the old days, which I think I was born in the wrong generation. I didn't know I was till I married him. But I loved it. We sat under a shade tree. We pulled the corn out of the pickup truck. We shucked it. We silked it, and we cut it off the cobs. She taught me all that. Well, they all taught me all that. Sweet Hunter was a gem for you girls that didn't get him. You would have learned a lot if you didn't know it. I didn't. I wasn't a city girl, but I wasn't a country girl, that's for sure. This is about 3 cups of corn. So let's go over what we have in the pot so far. We have onions, we have garlic, we have green beans, we have tomatoes, we have potatoes, I have corn. What else do I have? I guess that's all. Carrots. Did I say carrots? So, and I wanted to tell y'all that little story, but if I get started, I'll talk forever. And a lot of people don't like me talking, so I'm going to start all this up. I'm going to cover this with water. Now I'm adding some salt and pepper. This is only for taste, not preserving. And this is optional when you're canning. Meantime, I may find something else in the kitchen, out in the freezers, to add in there to make a delicious canned soup for the winter. And right now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to clean out my freezers. I did a pantry challenge in January, I think it was January and February. Oh my goodness, it was the best thing ever. I didn't go to the grocery store hardly at all, and I limited myself to $30 or $35 a week, and I did it for weeks. And now we still got lots of food we need to use, and lots that we can. And here I go talking again, and I don't understand why people don't like for you to talk. Do you? Well, next day, we actually didn't eat the soup for supper, so we got invited out, so we went out to eat, and so I put the soup up, and I'm rewarming the soup. When you make your soup, if you do it all in one day, all you have to do is boil it for 5 minutes. And then you'll put it in your jars and put it in your canner. I have an electric canner, which I love, but you can use your canner that you cook on the stovetop and do this the very same way. So I'm doing pints, and I don't know how many pints this is gonna be. I'm letting this boil. Jars are ready to come out, so they're warm and ready. So I'm gonna do that right now. By that time, the soup will be boiled and ready. You don't want your soup done because you're gonna pressure can it for 1 hour. So I'm not gonna take you all the way through this process, but what this canner does is it warms your jars. You fill up each of your empty jars with water halfway full, and then you pour it out and get it ready for your soup to go in. You want hot soup into hot jars. I tried to turn this where y'all can see it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna empty each one of these jars. No matter what canner you have, you need to heat your jars. When you pressure can, you don't have to sterilize your jars. I just did mine in the dishwasher, and then your pressure canner, if it's over 10 minutes of pressure canning, it'll sterilize your jars with the food in it. So while I'm preparing my jars to fill them with the hot soup, remember my jars are hot, my soup is going to be hot. My soup is boiling on the stove. I think I said a while ago 5 minutes on the stove, but I boil mine for 15 minutes on the stove and then fill my jars. So we added all our vegetables to the pot, And then we covered those vegetables with water. And now we're boiling it for 15 minutes. Look how good that looks. It's going to be delicious. And now I'm going to put it in the jars. So I've got my ladle. I've got my little magnet thing to get my lids out with. I've got my measuring thing to do a headspace if you want to. And my rings. And my lids are boiling. I still boil my lids. Now we're taking our hot jars and we're putting our hot soup in it, so be very careful when you do this. I like to do mostly vegetables and then liquid, and I get it up to about close to an inch headspace. Now, I'm not following every rule in the Ball book. I'm not crazy about their vegetable soup recipe, but what I do is I go and find whatever I've got in my soup that takes the longest to pressure cook, and that's how long I'll pressure cook my soup. So as you get more experience in canning, you'll learn to do this too, because canning can be dangerous and you want to be very careful when you do it. I don't fool around with the stuff that has lemon juice and citric acid and all that stuff. I don't alter their recipes at all. But homemade vegetable soup, you can do that yourself. Just try to follow all the basic rules of your canner and your Ball book. Make sure and do your research. If you're not an experienced canner, don't fool around with it. Follow the rules. So if you get a little bit too much soup in your jars, just pour a little bit out to get your headspace that you want. And I'm just doing my headspace to that right there. I think that's close to an inch. Next, I'm getting the air bubbles out of my jar, and you just take a little tool like this and you put it down in your jar, and this can adjust your headspace. Usually it'll make it go down. Just adjust your soup accordingly. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. My headspace went down on a couple of jars, and I'm just adding a little soup to them before I put the lids on. Next, we want to clean the rims and the top of our jars, just in case anything got on them in the filling process. And you can use a dishcloth, you can use a paper towel, you can use water, you can use vinegar, whatever your choice is. I'm just using a dishcloth and hot water, and I'm just cleaning the top of the jars. That's where the seal will be. You want to make sure nothing is on them. And I also do the rims too, the sides. And always remember to be very careful. You're dealing with very hot soup and hot jars. So the next thing on the agenda is placing our lids on our jars. Now, I told you before that I still boil my lids. The Ball says you do not have to do that. I think I do it out of habit, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. I just want to make sure that all my jars seal. So now I'm putting on my rings. Now, if I didn't tell you before, I wash my jars in the dishwasher, I wash my rings in the dishwasher, and I always wash my lids by hand. And I do that before I start. When you put your rings on, you want it to be finger tight. That doesn't mean you want it to be tight, just finger tight. And that's because it expands in the pressure canning process. So here's my soup before it goes in the canner. So if I haven't told you, I absolutely love my electric canner. This is a Prestoelectric digital pressure canner that doubles as a water bath. According to the rules of this canner, if you use regular mouth pint jars, you can get 8 in the canner. I just had to show you that jar before I put it in. Isn't it beautiful? So the only disadvantage to this electric canner is it doesn't hold as many as a stovetop canner does. So that's why I want 2. Hint, hint, sweet hunter. So my first canner is finished, and I'm working on my second canner. And I'm doing the same thing over again, except this time I'm using wide mouth pint jars. And according to the instructions of this canner, if you use wide mouth pint jars, you can only put 7 in the canner. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just getting it ready to go in the canner. So while the first canner was doing its thing, I went outside and did my chicken chores and my garden chores. I came back in and took a shower, and I've got pajamas on. Yes, I've got pajamas on. That's the other advantage to this electric canner that I love, is that once you get the basics done and get it ready for the pressure canning, then you don't have to sit and babysit this canner. You can go on and do whatever you need to do. Second canner going in. I'm very happy, very excited. I was talking to a friend last night and showing her a picture of what all I had done, and she said, "Isn't it such a good feeling?" And that's the truth. It's just a very good feeling knowing that you're doing this for your family. Second canner done. So if you look real close, you can see the bubbles where it's boiling inside the jar. I did end up adding okra to my last batch, so part of this soup will have okra along with all the other goody vegetables in it. We're going to really enjoy this winter, and before we blink an eye, it's going to be cold weather, y'all. I normally freeze my things and I wait till cooler weather to can, but I am just in a mood and I'm enjoying it so much. So this is my final canner today. This is all the soup I have, and I chose quarts for this third canner. So I'm doing regular mouth quart jars. This canner will hold 5 of these jars. And so this should be my last canner in all of my soup. If you noticed, I only use salt and pepper as seasoning in my soup. Now, that's not all I will do when I cook my soup, when I warm it up to eat it. It's fully cooked when you pressure can it. But I will add either a couple of pieces of bacon, like fry it in a pan and use the bacon fat to season it. I'll use salted butter to season it, or I could use olive oil. That's really good to season it. And of course, you'll be adding more salt and pepper because those vegetables soak the salt and pepper up. Whichever way you choose to serve your soup, it will be delicious, I promise you. I have even served this soup with Parmesan cheese on top. And of course, that's after seasoning it other ways. But there's so many different ways you can serve this soup. It's just so worth having it on your pantry shelf. So for me, I ended up pressure canning my pints for 60 minutes. I pressure canned my quarts for an hour and 25 minutes. Do your research, because your soup may be different from mine. I'm telling you, I've got some people that's going to send me messages saying that is a lot of work. I'm telling you, it is. It's so worth it. On one of those cold, wintry days when you don't want to get out of the house and you don't want to cook, you're going to make yourself a pan of cornbread and you're going to fix yourself a bowl of this soup, and you're going to be sending me a message saying thank you. Well, that was fun. I hope that showed you that you can take what you have in your kitchen, what you have in your freezer, and you can can something for the winter. I do always tell you to go by the Ball Canning Book guidelines. It's a labor of love, like I said. Y'all go cook something.